Okay, we will be starting our webinar. It's about time, and we would like to welcome you all to the Fall 2020 Pre-Arrival Webinar Series, and specifically today's webinar topic, which is about understanding orientation expectations, responsibilities, and placement tests. This webinar is designed for graduate students, so hopefully you are all going to be our new graduate students in the Fall 2020 semester. The next slide will be a welcome message from the Graduate College Dean, Dr. John Keller. And also, I would like to ask you for your patience and understanding if there are a little bit of technical issues. This is done all remotely and there is a little bit of a lag time, so thank you for your understanding.
Hello, my name is John Keller, and I serve as the Associate Provost for Graduate and Professional Education and Dean of the Graduate College here at the University of Iowa. I want to welcome you to this webinar about graduate college orientation, and I want to let you know that my colleagues and I here in the Graduate College are here to help you with your student success. We very much look forward to having you join us here at the university very soon.
Okay. Next, I would like to say a few words about the webinar series, especially for those of you who have not attended our webinar before. The pre-arrival webinar series is optional for the incoming international students, and they're provided before they arrive in Iowa City. The objective of the series is to help new international students to arrange plans for travel to and living in Iowa City, to understand orientation expectations and responsibilities, and finally to transition to student life and academics at the University of Iowa. All webinars are recorded and posted on our website, which is listed here as international.uiowa.edu/pre-arrival webinar. And that's where you will find them in about 10 to 14 days after today's presentation. During the webinar, if you encounter any technical difficulties, please let us know in the chat function. And then if you have any questions related to today's topic, please use the Q&A function to post your questions. We will answer them live at the end of the webinar as time permits. Have you received your I-20 or DS-2019 document? If not, please make sure to pay eShip Global shipping fee to receive your document. Only if you have either I-20 or DS-2019, you can apply for your visa. This information is also contained in the pre-arrival checklist in IHOG, and the address is ihog.uiowa.edu. And if you have any questions about these documents, please contact our orientation team at the email address isss-orientation@uiowa.edu. Let's talk about some important dates. July 10th is the earliest arrival date for graduate students. And then mandatory orientation takes place between August 10th and 14th. Again, this is an orientation which is mandatory for international graduate students. And what I'm speaking about is the international student orientation conducted by ISS's office. And we will talk about that orientation actually today in greater detail. And then on August 24th, we plan to start the Fall 2020 semester. Let's do some presenter introductions. Lisa?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Kelly. I work in the Graduate College in the Graduate Student Success Office. I run the Center for the Integration of Teaching, Research, and Learning. And I'm here today to talk about the Graduate College orientation, which is part of orientation for you all.
Brandon?
Hi, my name is Brandon Paulson, and I'm the Assistant Director in International Student and Scholar Services, and I will be talking to you today about international student orientation.
Greetings. My name is Maureen Burke, and I'm the director of the English as a Second Language program at the University of Iowa. And I will be talking about the different requirements for language testing for graduate students and for those who are going to assume teaching assistant responsibilities.
And my name is Andrea Siebedman, and I'm one of the ISS's advisors and also a webinar coordinator. Again, welcome to the webinar. And we will next continue with the presentation about the graduate college orientation.
All right. Hey, everybody. So the graduate college offers an orientation. I'm trying to advance the slide, but it's not going. For all new graduate students, and this is separate from the international student orientation. This is something that, this is a particular day to learn more about the graduate college and the resources that the graduate college offers for students, and as well as getting to know graduate students across different programs. So the graduate college orientation happens on Wednesday, August 19th, starting at 1 o'clock and goes until 6 o'clock p.m. For the first part of the day, we are dividing students into two different groups, one for master's students and one for doctoral students. So if you're an MA student or an MS student or an MFA or MBA or any of those student, any type of student like that, you would go to the master's students in the Pomerantz Center, which is, you can see kind of a map there about where that's located. If you're a doctoral student, you go right next door to the Papa John Business Building, and we'll have programming that's more specific to the type of graduate student you are. So there'll also be plenty of signs outside the two buildings so you can figure out which one to go to. All right, and then after that, later on in the afternoon around 3:30, we're actually, those two buildings I mentioned before are at the top of a hill. We'll all walk down together to the bottom of the hill where the Iowa Memorial Union is located. And in the main lounge, there'll be a information fair and then followed by a reception. So you'll get to experience, you get to see a couple of different buildings on campus and get to be around lots of different graduate students. So the schedule for the day, 1 o'clock to 1:30 is check-in or registration. Again, you'll go to whichever room is appropriate for your kind of program. Then at 1:30, we'll start the official program. There'll be a welcome from one of the deans in the graduate college, either one of the associate deans usually. There will be a getting started, kind of a keynote speech by a faculty member who primarily teaches either master's students or doctoral students, and they'll welcome you to the university and give you some insight into the graduate student experience. That will also be followed by a student panel, which is my favorite part of this part of the event, because some current graduate students will come up and they'll answer questions from you all about anything that you're interested in, whether it's good restaurants in Iowa City, how they do time management, how they handle TA responsibilities or family responsibilities. You can ask them all kinds of things. And that's always a lively, fun part of the event. And there'll also be a brief presentation from benefits, billing, and payroll, which is something that all grad students will use in various ways. It's where you do direct deposit, it's where you get health insurance, it's where you deal with paychecks and things like that. So depending on how you're employed or what you have at the university to pay for you, you'll be using benefits, billing, and payroll. So they'll talk briefly then too. So yeah, mentioned that. And then at 3:30, like I said, we'll all go down the hill to the IMU. And here there'll be tables set up for all kinds of different resources on campus, things from entertainment, cultural events, and clubs you can join, student organizations, student health, the rec center where you can work out. If you want to buy football tickets, I think they're there, cultural groups, religious groups. campus needs, volunteering, all kinds of things. It's a great way to get a little bit of information about lots of things you can get involved with as a grad student. And also you can get on listservs and get more information sent to you later on. One of the things that I think is really great during this time is we'll also have a photo booth. So a lot of departments will put pictures of their graduate students online, or you might have a LinkedIn or some kind of social media presence that you want to have a professional photograph for. You can wait in line and get a professional photograph taken of you, which can be really helpful for your professional development and kind of thinking about how you're going to use graduate school to help you find a job eventually. And then the last part of the day at 5 o'clock, we'll transition to a reception. And this is a great opportunity to continue conversations with graduate students you may have met that day. We're going to have some tables set up for topics. So those might be around like people who have a teaching assistantship, or people who are interested in joining student government, or people who are interested in family resources. We'll also have some faculty there who you can join a table with a faculty member and ask them about their experiences at the university. And the Dean, Dean Keller, who you saw in the video just now, he'll also say a few words to welcome everybody, and it's free food. So it's a great way to end the day. So that's kind of the plan for the graduate student orientation day. I had the slides and now I don't. There we go, got it. Okay, another resource I wanted to point out really quickly is the Grad Guide. This is a site made for and by graduate students. So the Graduate and Professional Student Government worked to create this resource. You can see the website there, https://gradguide.uiowa.edu/. This is particularly a great resource for those of you who are coming to Iowa City and want to know about dining, entertainment, nightlife, where to live, current schools in the area, if you have children, parks and recreation and transportation. There's lots, and it's kind of written from the graduate student perspective. So I highly recommend you check out this website over the summer, because it's going to get you a lot of information about what it's like to live in Iowa City and to be part of our community. Also, another website or thing to check out is you have all been invited to join a graduate college orientation and new student resources ICON site. ICON is our learning management system. It's where all of your courses will have a site in ICON, but you can use ICON. In this case, all you have to do is check your UI email, and you'll see that you can accept the course invitation. And then you'll see, when you get into the course, you'll see lots of information about university resources and things that are going to be helpful as you're making your transition. We release new modules in the first of each month. The first module was released April 1st. We're about to release another module on May 1st. The first module really dealt with moving to Iowa City, how to do things like setting up your one card and your email, and how to use some of the resources that are the first things you need to use at the university. The second module coming out on May 1st will be about funding and finances. So billing, payroll, and benefits, also had direct deposit, the differences between fellowships, assistantships, and on-campus employment, things like that. Also, each module has has a discussion post, so you can join and have discussions with other graduate students. In the first module, there's a great post going on about housing. So if you're still looking for housing, it's grad students posting about information they've come across about places to live and good neighborhoods and how grad students get to classes and things like that. So feel free to join that. I said each module is released in the first of each month, but once they're released, they stay open. So even if you haven't accessed it yet, you can still access all of the previous modules from whenever you first access it. And this is now a part of orientation. So we're moving some of the, the nuts and bolts and how to do things onto this online resource, which will mean that the day of orientation can be more about networking and getting to know people and getting ready to start classes and things like that. And then finally, on the Graduate College website, there's a page about orientation. You'll get an email either through the ICON course or through your UI email soon when registration is ready for the August 19th orientation date. There's also information here about professional development, more about community resources and checklists and things about what you should do before arriving at Iowa. So there's lots of information available to you, and we're happy to, and at the end of this presentation, once everyone has gone, I'm happy to answer any more specific questions about the graduate college orientation. Thanks.
Okay, hello, this is Brandon Paulson with International Student and Scholar Services, and I will be talking to you today about International Student Orientation. And International Student Orientation is scheduled for August 10th through the 14th. And this orientation is considered mandatory and required for all new international students. And this orientation is designed specifically for our graduate and professional students here. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the goals that we have for international student orientation. The first one is to support the transition to student life and academics at the University of Iowa. So we know that students that are studying here as grad and professional students, you have had previous experiences in higher education, but you haven't studied here at the University of Iowa. So we really want to help support that transition to be able to learn more about your academics as well as student life here. We'll also be highlighting cultural adjustment and immigration regulations to successfully maintain F1 or J1 status. And again, so we're helping, the focus will be on helping you adjust to the new culture here at the University of Iowa as well as in the US. And we'll be focusing too on the immigration regulations. So what are the things that you need to do in order to be a student here and maintain your visa status here. And then finally, we're really going to be focusing on connecting you to new students. So being able to connect with each other, form new friendships, new connections is a really important goal for orientation. So next, I'm going to provide just a little bit of an overview of the orientation schedule. So Sunday, August 9th, that is the date by which you should arrive in Iowa City by. That will make sure that you are here and ready to start orientation, because that will begin on Monday, August 10th, and then orientation will go throughout that whole week and through Friday, August 14th. So I'm going to briefly go over, again, an overview of what to expect during orientation week. So the very first day, Monday, August 10th, will be a welcome where you'll get to know other new international students here. You'll also be meeting in your small group for the first time. So we will have small groups where you'll be meeting with other new international students, as well as some experienced students here at the University of Iowa that will help lead your small group. And I'll talk a little bit more about small groups in just a little bit. And then we'll be ending the day by talking about the immigration regulations. So all the things that you need to make sure to follow as an international student. And then on Tuesday, August 10th, we will be having some of the different English testing that will be going on. And we'll also have a cultural adjustment session. So again, focusing on helping you adjust and transition to studying here at the University of Iowa and the US. And then you'll have time to meet with your small groups. And then on Wednesday, there'll be some additional English testing, and this will be covered a little bit later in this webinar. And then there'll also be an immigration check-in where you'll meet with ISSS and meet with an advisor here to review all your immigration documents. And then you'll also be meeting with your small groups. And then Thursday, August 13th, there'll be more English testing that will be going on and then we'll also have campus information. So we have invited many campus partners to help with the orientation, and so they'll be sharing important information and resources here at the University of Iowa. And then the day will also include time in your small group. And then Friday, August 14th, there'll be additional English testing for some of you. And then there's also more campus information in your final time meeting in your small group. So I've already been talking about the small groups, how you'll be meeting. So just to share a little bit more information about the small group sessions, each of you will be assigned to an orientation small group. Small groups will meet again each day during orientation week. And the groups will be led by experienced current graduate and professional students. And so they'll be able to share their experiences, help answer questions, help kind of guide you and help you with that transition. They'll cover special topics, many that will be related to what is being discussed during your other orientation sessions. And they'll also be leading many fun social activities to just connect with other new students within your small group. And then to access your orientation schedule, so the orientation schedules are not currently available, but they will be available later this summer. We will be sending out an email on how you can access your orientation schedule when they're available. Those will be accessible on iHawk, so it'll be through the pre-arrival checklist. You'll need to make sure you're completing all the items. That way you will be able to access your orientation schedule when it is available this summer. And again, we will send out an email once your orientation schedule is available. And then you can access it before orientation starts on iHawk. So some things to consider about successful participation in orientation. One is that it's very important to follow your own personal orientation schedule and attend each of the sessions that are scheduled. So each new international student will have their own personal individual orientation schedule. So it's important to follow just your schedule and not any other student's schedule. And as I had reviewed in the overview of the orientation schedule, there will be different English testing that will be going on during that week. And so some of you may be scheduled for that testing. It's very important that you attend all the testing because those really take priority. And again, we'll be talking about the English testing in a little while. It's also important just to get to know others by introducing yourself. We know that you'll make new friends during your time participating in orientation. And we just ask that you fully participate in the different activities and the discussions and really ask questions. The ISS staff and other campus staff and faculty, we're here to help you be successful, and as well as your small group leaders will help you be able to answer different questions. So please, if anything that you need more information or want to learn more, please ask questions throughout orientation. And then in order to, if you do have any pre-arrival or orientation questions or need any type of accommodations for a disability or mobility accommodations, make sure to communicate with the ISSS orientation email. It's isss-orientation@uiowa.edu. We do check that email and respond back to any questions that you might have as you're preparing to arrive and start your studies here. I also want to highlight we do have many pre-arrival resources on our new students international.uiowa.edu /new-students web page. There's recordings of the pre-arrival webinars. There's also information about orientation and many links and connections to other campus resources, as well as the Iowa City area in preparing to live here. So I strongly encourage reviewing these different resources that are on our website. And so this is all I have in terms of talking about orientation, but I'll be happy to answer more questions at the end.
Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm not able to move this, Brandon. It's not showing up. Okay. Brandon, I'm giving you control back. Those are not showing up on my screen.
Okay, I will take
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and I apologize. I'm having some problems with my internet today, so I hope that it will not interfere too much with what information I have to share with you today about the English proficiency requirement at the university. For those of you, and I know not everybody for those of you whose first language is not English and you're held to the English proficiency requirement that you have to show that you have the proficiency. Some of students who have graduated from a U.S. institution for their undergraduate work or other graduate work do not need to, that's the way they show proficiency. Others who are held to either a TOEFL or an IELTS exam, there are some things that you will need to know about when you arrive on campus. And that is that the university does have a requirement, and the reason for that is that the university wants to be sure that students know English well enough that they are successful in their studies and don't have problems in their studies because of their English. And even students who have strong English language proficiency sometimes face language challenges because it is different. It's different from your own culture. It's different from your classrooms, may be quite different. So the university just wants to make sure that everybody can be successful and not be hindered by their language. So the requirement is that if you have a 100 on the IBT TOEFL or a 600 on the paper-based TOEFL, that you are exempt from any more English language testing, except if you are going to be a teaching assistant. However, if some of you may have a score that is below 100 on the IBT or below 600, and the university says, okay, you can come and study, but we're going to check your English when you get here on campus. And for students who have between an 81 IBT or 500 paper-based, or have an IELTS of 7.0 with no subscore below 6.5, or right now, temporarily a Duolingo score of 105, you'll be allowed to begin your degree work, but you have to take the test. And that's the condition. And so therefore, students need to take the on-campus test. The results of the test may show that a student needs some more work in English, in which case students enroll in classes and they're required to do this. Most graduate students take one course a semester until they've completed the number of courses they need, and that needs to be done before graduation, and the graduate college does monitor that requirement. So that is the condition. So what does this evaluation look like? The evaluation is, there's a reading part There's a writing part and there is an oral interview. The reading part is 45 minutes and it's 40 items. The writing sample takes about 30 minutes, and we give you 2 prompts and you choose which one is preferable to you to write about. And then there is a 10-minute oral interview. You will take the reading test and the writing sample together in a large classroom, and then the oral interview will be a set time that you come and have a conversation with 2 ESL instructors. And we try not to make it stressful. So now if we go to the next slide and we look at what the reading test is, it's similar to the TOEFL and the IELTS in that it's multiple choice. It has a focus on comprehension, on academic vocabulary, and vocabulary from context. So it has very much an academic focus to it. The writing sample, which I mentioned, students choose from 2 prompts. This is an emphasis on academic writing. We want to make sure that you're prepared for the kind of writing you're going to need to do in graduate school at the University of Iowa. And you're evaluated on the content of what you say about the topic, how you develop your ideas, the organization, your use of grammar, and your use of vocabulary that is precise and appropriate for an academic context. And then finally, the oral interview. And the oral interview, we can get to the next, okay. The goal of this is really to determine your communicative competence. And that has several parts to it. Is the student able, first of all, to understand fast conversation and complex questions? Something that you're going to deal with every day in classes and seminars that you're taking. Is there little effort required to understand the student? Okay, we know that you are not going to sound like you grew up in the United States and are not a native speaker of English. We don't expect you to be. We don't want you to lose your identity. And we know that there will be some errors, but we need to ensure that generally, without a lot of effort, you can be misunderstood. Can be understood. And then finally, is the student able to answer questions or narrate, tell a story, or explain something with little hesitation, so fluently, and using precise and mostly accurate word choice, and using appropriate transitions, moving from one idea to another. So that's what the oral interview is and what it looks to check. You can find out more information about the English Proficiency Evaluation from our website, and that's there on the slide for you to take a look at later. So you've taken the test. What are the possible results, and what does it mean for you then as you begin to put your schedule together? The best outcome from your perspective would be that you don't need any further work in ESL. The second option might be that enrollment is required in one or more ESL classes, and the class would match up with a part of the EPE, maybe where you showed that you weren't as strong as you were in other areas. And then very rarely what happens is enrollment might be required for somebody to take a non-credit English course. And we have 2 programs there. We have transitional courses, and then we have the Iowa Intensive English program. Again, very rare that students, particularly graduate students, need to take those classes. So let's go back to onto the next popular program, the one that if students do need to take an English course, it's in the ESL Credit Program. And in that program, there are 4 different courses for degree students. There's one in reading, one in writing, one in grammar, and another one in oral skills, which would be building of fluency and pronunciation. Okay, go on to the, so those are the possibilities. So you may be thinking, oh, not more ESL classes. There are benefits to your taking the ESL classes. And I think students, after they've been here for a while, understand that better. Students take ESL courses concurrently with their other academic courses. So one ESL course and then your other courses at the same time. There's no extra tuition. It's part of your full-time enrollment. You receive credit for these ESL courses. They're on your transcript and they do actually count, I believe, towards your GPA in some departments. ESL courses do provide you with good language support and also cultural support during your first year and beyond. You have your orientation with ISSS, where you'll get a lot of cultural support, and the ESL courses provide additional support as you go through, particularly that first year. And then finally, the ESL classes really do allow students to adjust to studying in English with somebody that you can talk to about studying in English and best ways to do things for your success. And so if you want to think about it, one way to think about it is that ESL courses really can be the key to your success. They open the door to help you move on and do well and meet your academic goals at the University of Iowa. Okay, so that's for everybody. Now, many of you may have received some kind of aid or assistantship from your department. And most of those will be in the form of teaching assistantships. So if your department has offered you a teaching assistantship, this information will be helpful for you. So the next slide talks about prospective TAs whose first language is not English. And there's a policy at the university and in the state of Iowa that any TA whose first language is not English must be tested and certified as ready to teach in a UI classroom. That doesn't mean that you have to pass a test that says you can teach well. It's only about your English and whether it's at a level that you can explain to a class of students what's your discipline. The testing assures overall language effectiveness in the classroom. Okay. And so if we go on to what the tests look like, okay, there are two tests. The first one is the ESPA, and ESPA stands for English Spoken Proficiency Assessment. And this is an oral proficiency test, and it's given in a language lab setting, and it's rated independently by 2 ESL instructors and a third instructor if necessary. It's different from the oral interview in the EPE in that this is more focused on discourse and you're being able to explain things rather than an interview format. There are certain students who can be exempted from the ESPA, and those are students who can present a valid TOEFL score that has a sub-score of 26 in speaking and 25 in listening. If you have a valid TOEFL with those scores as a minimum, make sure you get those to your department so that your department knows that you are exempted from the ESPA. And we will make note of that, and then we will contact you to take the second test because you will be required to take the second test. There is no exemption for that. And there's information about the ESPA there on our website if you'd like to read more about it. Okay, so then moving on to the second test. which is the ELPT, or the English Language Performance Test. Students give a 10-minute presentation to an audience. And this is a topic that you choose from your discipline. It's intended to be for an introductory class. So first-year students, second-year students who are getting into your discipline for the first time. So it needs to be something that is of a lower level in your department rather than at a graduate level. The audience will ask you questions. They will interrupt you during the presentation and may ask you questions after the presentation. The presentation is rated by two ESL faculty, and it's very important to understand that we are not evaluating your teaching. We're not evaluating your knowledge of your discipline or your field. We are only evaluating your language. And the only people who are exempt from the ELPT are those who have the highest score you can get on the ESPA, which is a 60. Otherwise, everybody takes the ELPT, and those are the only exemptions. So be prepared for those. There's plenty of information, but this one is you get to choose your own topic and we will give you instructions for that as part of it. So now let's take a look at the levels of certification. The levels of certification as a result of the test reflect the duties the TAs typically have at the University of Iowa. And those go from maybe you're just going to be grading in a class, maybe in a math class or a computer science class, all the way up to full responsibility for teaching a course on your own. The most common duties, however, at Iowa are students, TAs will lead a discussion section or a lab section. And so there are a lot of large lecture classes that are divided up into discussion sections. A faculty member usually presents the lecture. TAs then would be leading the discussion sections at the direction of the faculty member, or they might have a lab section in chemistry or biology or physics. TAs usually run the lab sections there, and those are probably the most common TA duties at the university. They're not all of them, but they're the most common. So moving on then to what happens if you don't pass the ESPA, or you pass the ESPA, but you didn't do well enough on the ELPT to teach a class on your own or to do a discussion section. What can you do? So for those who don't pass either of those tests, we do have courses that are designed specifically for prospective teaching assistants. They have that focus, and that's called the TAPE program, Teaching Assistant Preparation in English. Students enroll in one of those courses, and then at the end of the semester, they automatically can retest. The courses are for those who do not pass the ESPA on the first time, would be enrolling in either fluency building and culture, where the emphasis will be on building fluency for the classroom with an emphasis on teaching, or a course in pronunciation, which works on your individual sounds, stress and intonation, things that make you more understandable to your audience. And then finally, if a student passes the ESPA but still needs some work on their language, they can enroll in a course called Presentation Skills, and that works on presenting and explaining information to a class and working on your fluency, your pronunciation, and also strategies that help you make it easier for your class to understand in areas where you may still have some difficulties. Okay, so let's look at what the TAPE program components are. Besides those classes we just talked about, there's an orientation program, and that's required for students their first semester in the classroom, for TAs their first semester in the classroom, who are teaching a discussion section or maybe a lab or are teaching on their own. And it has a lot of information about the syllabus, your class, who are they, ways to get students involved, some cultural information, and then just an opportunity for you to ask lots of questions that you might not feel comfortable asking in your department. And we're there to help you with those during the orientation, but also anytime you might want to have a visit with somebody in ESL. And then finally, the follow-up program. And so your first semester in the classroom, an ESL faculty member will come into your class, schedule a time to come in, visit your class, and then to provide you with support or suggestions about your ways to improve your language or your interaction, whatever. It's not an evaluation. It's just to provide you with support. It is the results of this are between you and the faculty member in ESL. Your department never receives any information from ESL about that class observation. That's just it's confidential between you and the ESL person who came to visit you. So it's just there to provide you with support. Okay, so that is kind of an overview of ESL programs and the testing that Brandon first talked about earlier on. And I think that as a result of everything, your orientation, everyone at the university wants you to help international students be successful and have a great educational experience. So with that, and questions you might have, visit our website. Also come and visit our office anytime when you arrive on campus throughout your career. If you have questions about language or anything that we might be able to help you with, we're there to help you be successful and do a good job. Thank you.